Well, the first question in is from John Mayer. Chris, will you talk about the local regional connections?
Local regional connections. I'm not sure what you want, John. Do you want to unmute yourself and
Go ahead, John.
tell
Just
us?
that slide where you have the sending from one to the other and how they relate to each other.
Oh, right. Okay. That's why we'll be encouraging some churches to go in one direction and some in another direction. That's due to physical proximity. Are the regions close to each other? Well, overriding, it's resource and need. Overriding, as with Nehemiah, we have to match resource and need. Where's the church? Where is the world? And we match the two. But as we go, we're looking at how close are you physically, whether you share a common major language, such as English. Not everyone may speak English in your country, but if English is a key trade language, then that is what we call an affinity, and we're more likely to recommend that you go in that direction. And the other ones are more trivial. Those are the two most important ones, the physical proximity and the shared language.
Mm-hmm. Here's another question, and perhaps this will be the last. Chris, you know I love this line of thought, says Jason Mandrick. You mentioned early how important it was to you and to Jesus to be sent. It seems that where people feel sent to usually has little rhyme or reason regarding actual need or strategic deployment. How does your model address that?
Okay. By dropping in a little prophetic word, which may, sorry, Scott, I'm making great use of your, a little prophetic word, which over time may influence the way people feel called that they're sent. I think that's the simplest way to put it. We're also hoping to influence churches and church leaders specifically who have an influence on where people get sent. There you go.
Great. Frank Roberts is up next. He is the Global Data Architect at Mission Aviation Fellowship, where he leverages over 30 years of experience in data management and visualization. Drawing on his extensive background with the Coeur d'Alene tribe, one of the native peoples here in North America, and Innovate Incorporated, Frank plays a pivotal role in harnessing data to support Mission Aviation Fellowship's humanitarian missions. Outside of his professional endeavors, Frank is an avid mountain biker and dedicates his free time to coaching the Sandpoint mountain bike team, striving to keep up with his son and the other energetic teenagers. Frank, welcome. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Well, great. Thank you for having me here. Can you hear me okay, Dan? Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, your voice is coming in.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate the previous presentations. So I really feel like the guy in the back office with the tools working on the engine here compared to the previous speakers. So,
Frank, your voice is a little soft. I don't know if you can move closer to a microphone.
How about this? Is that better?
Yes, that improved it a bit.
All right. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, so that was a great kind of overview of what I've been up to for the last 30 years, walking through my Christian life and trying to figure out, well, how could God possibly use all this data visualization stuff I've been doing for my whole career? And about 2.5 years ago, I started working for Mission Aviation Fellowship in what I'm considering my retirement job. So it's been fascinating to get to work with this organization. They've got a great track record. We're celebrating actually 80 years in missions work this week at MAF. So that's really exciting to be with an organization that's been around the block that long. So MAF provides aviation support to both mission workers and other humanitarian relief type work across the globe. So the global organization works in about 30 different countries across the world. And MAF-US, the branch that I work for, cover about half of those. So primarily using small aircraft to go into very remote communities. This is one of the airstrips I flew into here in Indonesia about a year ago. So really remote locations, but places where people, want to hear about Jesus and want to be changed like the rest of us have been changed. So fascinating work that we get to do. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. So basically what we're doing is we're breaking up layers of information and overlaying them one over the top and helping people make decisions with that information. And this has been used for, 40 or 50 years now within the world, trying to make decisions for corporate America and governments and other kinds of things. So there's no reason it couldn't be used in the missions work. And so a number of organizations have done a really great, strong work with this. Samaritan's Purse is one of those that I think of off the top of my head that have a really solid GIS program. And so MAF, this technology was relatively new with MAF. And so it's been fun to kind of introduce it to the organization. So just as a couple of brief examples, so here at MAF, these are all the airstrips we have worldwide. And so we have a database where we keep track of those for aviation purposes, but we can interact with that database and bring them into the GIS system to help visualize them. And then we can start overlaying those with other pieces of information. So here on my screen is that same map you just saw spinning behind you. But we can spin it around the world. But airstrips isn't that exciting, but when we start overlaying it with other information, be it weather information or say unreached people from the Joshua Project, things get a little more interesting. So where do we spend our time? Where are we sending people to? Just like Chris had mentioned in the previous talk, like the red dots indicate significantly unreached people based on the Joshua Project data. So a lot of red dots in the world that we can focus our time on. And not that God can't do anything. I mean, he changed my heart, which means he can do a lot of amazing things, in my opinion. But just helping us focus in areas. So that's one way we're using GIS, not to mention we can visualize it at very, very detailed scales. So down to very, very close, small little jungle communities in Africa. So really fun to get to visualize this and use this to help us make our decisions at MAF. Another, let me advance my slide here. So that was kind of the assessing impact and seeing how impact changes over time. So since we can have a time dimension to this, we can look at change and see, are the dollars we're investing or time we're investing, more importantly, is that be making an impact in communities? So that's another way we can kind of view this data. A third way that we're using here in MAF is to keep our missions workers safe. So this is a global data set called ACLID. It identifies the unfortunate places where bad people do bad things to one another. And so in this particular example, every one of MAF-US's programs has an ACLID dashboard that we've created in GIS. They can zoom into various places and they can see, are bad things happening more? Are they happening less? Are things ramping up or ramping down? Do we need to get our people out of harm's way if necessary? And then we can look at specific events like violence against civilians, for example, here, and see where those activities are occurring in as airstrips that maybe we shouldn't fly into today, but maybe next week they'll be safer, kind of thing. So these are tools that we use as information workers and provide it to our people in the field to help them make decisions about where to put people. The piece of software that we are using to do this is from a company called ESRI, called ArcGIS. Any nonprofit in the world can actually apply to the Esri nonprofit program and receive this software at deeply discounted rates. So, for example, MAF did that. My previous job, I implemented in the private sector. One piece of software might be $20,000, where at MAF, through the nonprofit program, it's $1,000. So there's significant cost savings. If an individual wants to do, say, any of the maps that I created below, if they're in a nonprofit program, literally they can get a license of the ArcGIS Online software for $100 to do that. So relatively low price point to get in, and it's kind of a worldwide piece of software that there's many, many people out there that use it, and thousands of YouTube videos that teach you how to use it, and lots of data that you can share. One of the most powerful things about the platform is that other people are sharing data. So, for example, the Joshua Project data or the weather data or things like that, I just can do a search and add it to the map. I don't have to build data or create that. I just have to build my own one little piece of data, then I can overlay other people's pieces of data with that. That's really, really powerful and a huge time savings to make things kind of go forward. So Esri has many flavors of GIS software. The one that I'm just speaking about is something called ArcGIS Online. So it's cloud hosted. So you just need to have a web browser and you can kind of do all those graphics and things that I just showed you earlier. So it's cloud hosted, as I said, and then you can start building those maps and adding other people's content to your own maps, which is very powerful. So one of the gateways we're believing is a group that I'm part of the board on, is the Christians in GIS organization. So feel free to visit their website. And so that's kind of a band of brothers, you might think, that get together, that are here to help facilitate Christian data working needs. So if you go to the website, I think in my perspective, we have kind of three big things going on. One's building a community of workers out there, and some of them, this is what they would do on the weekend for fun when they're not at their day job. So building a community of people that want to serve in Jesus's name, other people, other data workers out there. We then have created a working relationship with Esri, where they're going to actually donate some software to the Christian and GIS group. So we would have freely available software, and then there'd be a vetting process where we would pair up people from the Christians and GIS group with the software with people that have the needs. So these are kind of three components that we're currently putting together right now. So if you have an interest in that, I'd highly recommend going to the christiansgis.org website. And then if you look in the About section, there's a subscribe to our mailing list, and that'll get you kind of plugged into the group where you could then pose questions that you might have, in particular about availability of software, or maybe you're hypothesizing some idea of a data analysis you'd like to do, and you want somebody else to kind of buddy up with you that's been in the industry for a while, like myself or others. And so that's what we're here to do and to serve others with. Kind of as in conclusion, I wanted to open it up to the floor. I mean, I've spent my whole career doing GIS visualization work. Love to answer some questions if people have questions, or show some demonstrations of the work we're doing here, if there's time for that. So, Dan, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Yeah. Well, since you're working for MAF, I'll say that was a nice flyover of what you do. I think those images probably pique a lot of interest. We do have some time remaining with Frank, if people want to throw some questions in the sidebar, as we were just doing a few minutes ago.
And I hope you don't mind, but I actually have a question I posted in the chat, whether or not there's been any work with digital evangelism data and mapping. Thank you.
So did you get that, Frank?
Yeah, digital evangelism data. So not specifically with the work I'm doing at MAF, other than the work with the Joshua Project data. Though I have partnered up with a few other organizations in the past that are looking into that. So I know there's some work going on with that.
Yeah, I think Far Eastern Broadcasting and the MTN network, Frank Haregrove and some of those people. There's a few others out there that are doing pretty broad digital evangelism data and mapping. The numbers aren't real impressive, but the spread of where things are being broadcast and a lot of the different trends are pretty significant, and there's some good information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the organizations that we worked with was Every Home, and so they were using GIS to identify places where they've done outreach into, and an app that they could track that kind of work. So that's one organization I know is kind of.
If we were trying, one of the things I wanted to do is understand spatial relationships between different groups where outreach is happening in high security environments. So my question is it possible to map those out, understand the relationships between, say, different house churches without it being actually on a geographic map that would give away their actual location?
Sure, that's a great question. So, this is back to my 30 years in the desert wandering around. So my previous job with the Coeur d'Alene Indian tribe is one of the things that we mapped there was cultural sites. And those were things that we didn't want anybody to know about, right? Because we didn't want anybody to vandalize cultural sites or steal things from them. And so, yeah, in GIS, there's means of obscuring things or hiding them or generalizing them in ways so you could still understand pattern changes and things like that and cause and effect. And yeah, we did that kind of work there. I haven't done any Christian work in that area, but it'd be a fascinating one where I think it'd be a great project to launch to the Christians in GIS group and see what people would think there and provide some brainstorming and ideas around that.
I'd love to talk to somebody about that sometime.
Yeah, heat maps and scattergrams and things that are representative but not visual are possibilities there.
Yeah.
Alpheus?
Yeah, hi Frank. Thank you so much for the presentation. Yesterday, one of the things that we shared that discusses the issue of security in reducing risk for data collectors as they go into places where it is difficult to live as a Christian. I wanted to find out whether GIS can help the data collectors to reduce the risk on themselves and also on the people that they are interviewing, from your own understanding. Thank you.
Certainly. Yeah, we do work in some secure countries and we do collect data and things like that there. There are data collection tools built within the ArcGIS suite that people could install on their phones and things like that to kind of collect information and then cache that information back to some more secure location offsite. So you wouldn't actually be having any data on your phone, say if somebody was to pull you over on the street and say, what's on your phone? So you wouldn't have any evidence per se of that. And so that's one way we're using some of those tools. So yeah, I think there is opportunities for that. And once again, I think that'd be a great question to kind of join that Christians in GIS group, launch your question out to the group and see what ideas people have.
Thanks a lot.
See, I'm looking at the chat for other questions coming in. I see one here from Nigeria. How can GIS be used for effective missions in Nigeria, especially areas where terrorism and kidnapping is a threat to Christian work in those areas? So maybe that's similar to what we were just asking.
Yeah, we do a lot of work, like I said, throughout the world, including looking at places like Nigeria. And one of the things we do to kind of assess those kind of things that you're talking about is we make something called a common operating picture viewer. And so this is actually one I've created for Nigeria. And so, and the idea with a viewer like this is to say, okay, well, where are the places we're an airplane-based place, right? So where are the places where we might fly airplanes at in Nigeria? Okay, that's interesting. Well, where are there schools or churches that we might want to work with in conjunction with that? And so this is a point of all the churches that we could potentially work with there. And, this is a freely available data set. I didn't make this. I just added it to the GIS platform. And of course, we can, look at other things too, as far as healthcare facilities and different demographic information that's available, including things like kind of socioeconomic risk indices and things like that. So I think there's a lot of data that is available for these kind of places that maybe you would traditionally say, well, I just can't believe there'd be much data available even for that. But like, this is an example of that in Nigeria. So, and this kind of data exists throughout the world. So it's not just for one specific country. So pretty amazing. Didn't used to be like this 20 years ago when I first started doing this work.
So any of our participants here who have another country in mind could link up with the Christians in GIS and have professionals show them how to find such publicly available data, and then overlay that with their specific needs.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Frank, this is Lee. So for those of us in the field who don't have ArcGIS, aren't familiar with mapping, are there generally available maps that are widely of interest or broadly of interest that are on this website, Christians in GIS website, that people can go to look at, even for no charge, for free?
Yeah, and I think that's one of our ideas. So we're going to curate our own maps that we think might be of interest to the general Christian community, and those will be available via the Christians in GIS ArcGIS site. So that's something in the works. It'll probably be something that stood up, I would say, within the next 6 months. And we are going to have a sub meeting of those people in San Diego next month, where we're going to keep kind of steering this. Another component of that group is working groups. So if people have ideas for the working group, I would encourage you to get involved or, make recommendations like the one you just had.
Great.
We've got some other questions, Dan. I don't know how much time we've got, but we've got Ali, Adriel, and Marianne have questions.
Yeah, I see Tariq's hand has been up quite a while. Tariq, do you have a question in the chat box or need to speak it?
Yeah, I want to speak it out. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I just checked this site right now, christianingsis.org. So for Pakistan, it was saying it's not accessible here. So is there any other way to access such platforms, or it's like what is the solution if it is not working for my place?
Sure. Well, I could certainly provide an email address. You could feel free to reach out to me here at froberts@maf.org, and I could work with you and the group there to try to get that available to you, or content available if we need to screenshot it or PDF it and send it your direction.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Marianne, I saw your question in the sidebar. Perhaps it's the same. Just wondering about mapping data for people with disabilities. Is that it? You're muted, Marianne.
I'm asking about sign language people. Since my email address is in my name, can Frank Roberts send me a map that he has of sign languages?
I don't have one of those, but I'm sure it's something we could look into, Marianne. I'd love to work with you on that.
Thank you. I would think that DOR has some kind of maps, but I don't know how specific it is for the sign languages. Because DOR works with deaf people. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Marianne. All right, time for one last question. I'm scanning the chat feed here. Does my team have one that needs to come to the surface?
I don't see one, Dan, but I just wanted to make sure that people know that I posted his email address in the chat as well. So that will
Right.
be in the recording for those of you who need that access to that.
Right. I might
And
take time.
I
Yes.
did what you said, and I posted some AI tools, free tools and free or pay tools in the chat. There are 2 files in the chat as well. You might, I can put them in one more time, but you might want to save the chat and get some of that information.
Right. I do recommend that people save the chat regularly, lest they fall off and get back in and can't find any of the previous chat things. Just save chat. It's under the 3 little dots at the top of the chat window. And Rudolph, yes, one last question.
A quick question. Joshua Project typically has the position of all the people groups as a little dot. Using the GIS systems, how do you have more accurate distributions of the people rather than single dots? Because some people are very much in one local space, others are smeared out of huge areas with a whole low density. How can you use the GIS more meaningfully to actually locate people groups in the different spaces?
Sure. I mean, there are tools to help you convert points to polygons, for example, right? And to expand those. I mean, you can use automated tools. Automated tools will probably only get you so far, but, there are tools to kind of help polygonize that information. Of course, nothing beats a good old census or something like that. So in some places that information is available, so it depends on the country.
I'm just asking, Joshua Project
has
has many maps already available for each of the people groups. Have there been initiatives to actually pull those maps as overlays into the GIS systems?
Yes,
Yeah,
there has.
I think there has been some work, yeah, but there could be more, I think. So I know I've been in contact with those folks a little bit.
Dan, could I recommend that they take a look at the video of the last year's mapping GIS work? It has a whole dozen sites for about half that information that people just asked. Peoplegroup.org, Ethnopedia, several sites are mentioned, indicated, and sites are there from last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. That's on our video that I had mentioned earlier, our YouTube video for CMIW. All of the presentations from last year. Thank you all, and thank you, Frank Roberts. Good to have you with us today presenting that. I hope we've got a lot of good connections that can move forward from this.
Thank you.